Motivation is very much emotional. And yes, sometimes it goes, sometimes it comes, sometimes it goes. All right? So it's very much dependent on how you feel, how is your energy level. It could be your mood, or maybe the environment you are in right now. Marhaba and how's it going, everyone? For those who are new to the show, this is Yuwab, a space dedicated to have answers to calm your mind, empowering your workplace, and trust me, eventually it will leave you in a great state of mind to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, Saeed Alghafri, and let me just express how grateful I am for having you here and you allocating the time to hear me out. This is my second question and answer episode that I'm really dedicating to my uh, followers, specifically in LinkedIn. It's been really overwhelming, and I will endeavor as much as I can to have an episode recorded specifically for those. So I'll try to do it, let's say, every 2 to 3 episodes in my podcast. All right. So for this time, I picked two questions. The first question is uh, motivation comes and goes, but commitment is really what carries us through. What small habits you have done personally to basically lift your motivations when it's low? It's a pretty long one, but I mean, reality is, I like this question very well. So normally, and this is something that you will have to keep in mind, we all go through this in our life. We've got moments of up and moments of down. It's a really tricky one. So this question is all about motivation and it's about commitment. So both. And before I answer this question, let me first clarify or define motivation and define commitment, and you will understand my answers much more better. Right? So the first thing is motivation. So motivation is very much emotional. And yes, sometimes it goes, sometimes it comes, sometimes it goes. All right? So it's very much dependent on how you feel, how is your energy level. It could be your mood, or maybe the environment you are in right now. So these are some of the stuff that could really elevate or minimize your motivation. Think of it as, when you want to spark, let's say, that fire, and that's motivation. Let's say you want to write a strategy. Let's say you want to write a strategy, and honestly, you are in a place where you're trying your level best to do it. Some people say if you change the scenery, you are going to be able to start writing that strategy. All right. That's why people go into retreats, or let's say they take a break sometimes, because honestly, at that moment, you needed to change the environment. You wanted to stimulate that. Okay. So this is motivation. Commitment, on the other hand, is something that you decided to go ahead with. And here you can't really go back except quitting, and you don't want to quit. When you don't feel like doing anything, really, when let's say you're in a situation where you commit, where you want to do this, and you don't feel like doing anything, really, commitment is what carries you. It's very much closer to your existence, closer to your purpose, to your values. And I always say that this is what you need in difficult and challenging times. I'll share with you a few examples that I see, that I hear and see every year. Everyone, when we are closer to a new to the new year, Everyone comes with a New Year resolution. And seriously, 2 weeks after that, it just fades out. Seriously, man. Uh, Reality here is this is one of the things that you're not really committed. Or maybe you basically wake up today and you say, you know what, tomorrow I will do it. Tomorrow I will do it. All right. So, reality here is what is really, what are you trying to do and why are you doing it? You see yourself basically saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And there is nothing that you're committing yourself to do it. All right. So, this is motivation and this is basically commitment. Having explained both commitment, motivation, and commitment, here are some tips that could keep you stay motivated because commitment is important, but again, you want to be motivated most of the time. These are three things that I feel that could help you. And my favorite and my first one is don't really overthink. What happens is most of the time when we want to do something, we really overthink it. Really. Just start. Even if small. Really, even if small, just really start, man. Few days ago, and specifically for this podcast, I was trying my level best to write the scripts. Honestly, I was trying. Usually it takes me 2 hours to do maybe two or three scripts. This time I started, I couldn't really write anything. Nothing. Nothing. Really, really, really nothing. I couldn't. Because I did not even start. I was thinking about so many things, I could not even start. So I started, I wrote something, which was very good. Then I basically walked, drank coffee, came back, and it just flew, like a water flow. So reality is, I was just overthinking that it's not gonna look nice, it's not gonna be good, it's not gonna be this, and it's not gonna be that. When I started, it just happened. Honestly, I spent after that, it took me like few hours to get started, and then it just happened. It's just like magic. The second thing is when you have a specific project or a transformation, I always tell people quick wins. What are the easy ones that you can capitalize on? Trust me, in a cultural program or transformation, motivation is really swinging. All right? And it's really normal. When you start small and you have those nice quick wins, what happens is ultimately you're building momentum. And when you go to a company, it's a bunch of people. Some of them are motivated, some of them are not motivated. When they see those momentum, it really excites people. And that's what you want to achieve. So, quick wins are very important, right? The third one is, and this is something that I've learned through when I did my startup, I always wanted to have a partner whom I can rely on when I'm really demotivated. I was very committed to do the job or to do the startup. But again, sometimes I needed that motivation. So when you have a partner, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And they lift your spirit up, and you want that. When you go to companies, is your management team, it's a buddy in the company, it's a mentor. The good thing is these guys really motivate you. Yeah. So reality is we want to motivate ourselves because the ultimate goal is to have a habit. So when we are low on motivation, usually what happens is that commitment steps in, as we mentioned. Really, commitment steps in. And then we link it to our values. We basically look at our purpose, and that really pushes and drive us forward. All right. So really, you start with motivation. You have the habit. When things go bad or things doesn't go well, then reality here is commitment really steps in. And that's is very much linked to purpose and why you exist in this life, right? What do you think? What was one small thing that you did, and I'd like to hear it from you, to lift your spirit up and improve your motivation? Yeah. So that's the first question. Great question, actually. And I love it when we talk about motivation and linking it to our values and purpose. The second question here is, how could I actively listen without my ego coming in the way? Anything, again, I talked about ego in the past. And I think sometimes, and ego is really, really good. So I really love this question. Now, the only thing is we should control it. Let me share with you this story. When I did my coaching certification, before I did my coaching certification, I really uh, thought that I'm a good listener. I'll be completely honest with you. Why? Because I assumed that when people come to me and talk to me about their problems, this and that, this makes me a really fantastic listener. But to be honest with you, I was far away from being good in listening. And this is how most people think they are. They think that they are the best listeners in the world. All right. But honestly, they're far away from that. So before I basically answer this question, let me go through, and you will understand why I'm going through this. Let me go through active listening. And for me, active listening, it's basically four levels. And to be honest with you, I think I should make an episode about active listening because I love this topic so much. I used to be very much of a talker, and now I'm more of a listener, to be honest with you. So the first level, when we talk active listening, they call it the self listening level. And this is listening for you to react. It's just listening and then reacting. Think of it like a ping pong when you basically think this this self listening. It's very much listening to the other party. And what happens is you just start creating stories in your mind. Really, you're just processing that in your mind based on your experience and not factoring in mind that other person. And then what happens is you just start judging and then reacting. And then when you speak, you're just going to enforce your judgment on that person. Really, you're just going to enforce your judgment on that person. Okay? And what happens usually is that then people in the company or your family will anyway give up, and then they will tell you, okay, what do you want me to do? All right. So something that we learned when we did our coaching certification is that when you coach, you have to be basically very much present, and you cannot force your agenda on someone. You really cannot. Why is that so important? Because that other person is having a completely different context comparing to you. Maybe it worked on you, but not on that other person. All right? So keep in mind that you can't just force and judge. And this is something very important. And this is your ego, by the way. This is now where your ego is really surfacing. Okay? Now let's go to level two. Level two is still active listening. So anyone basically think, oh, active listening is level four. No, not really. Level two is just now you're active listening. So this is much more better naturally. Here you are listening, all right? And you are focused, okay? Ultimately, what happens in this level is that You basically now respond using the same person language. Think of it like a mirror. You're just mirroring that other person. At this point, this is just great, honestly. But reality is you're still not tuned to that other person. You're just repeating what they say, and you're still having stories in your mind. So, this is level two. Level two is called active listening. Now, level three is active listening, but being very much empathic. All right. So, this one is not an easy one, to be completely honest with you. This is you putting yourself in their shoes. What happened in level three is that you're noticing their emotions. You're just seeing their face expressions, their you're noticing their tone, the body language, how are they basically interacting, their intentions. So you're really tuned to that specific thing. But what happens, you're still processing judgment. And then you're linking it to your own story. It's amazing, all right? And very much factoring the bigger picture. So, to be honest with you, uh, this is now very much different from level two because you're more seeing their emotions, their tone, and body language. So, this is level three. Level four is the ultimate level, I would say. This is very much you're present and you're listening. I did not really master this, honestly, and I saw few people that I interacted with who can reach this stage. Here, you are fully alert. You are very much tuned to that specific moment. And unlike level two or level three, where you're just receiving, this is very much understanding. Now you're very much understanding what's happening. Your creativity is so high as a coach or as a person who's listening because right now you're just cutting each layer of that experience. You're just going deep and deep and deep. You're seeing really the details. What happens is that this brings and stimulate better response and better curiosity, and you're not judging anymore. The potential is amazing when you do level 4. All right? So these are the levels of listening. Now, having gone through this, when do you think ego comes in place now? When do you think? So it's usually in level 1 and a little bit maybe level 2, I would say. But why that happens? Because you're not really present. All right? Your understanding is very much low. And usually when you're reacting, you have no patience. You just want to react. You can't basically hold yourself from not really reacting. And what happens if ultimately is you're just gonna hijack the whole story. And you don't want that. Really, you don't want that. And that's your ego. Really, it's your ego coming to a place where it's for that other person, not you. All right? Usually what happens is that people do that because they're trying to prove a point. Maybe they're thinking that that other person is not thinking right, but that's not up to you, man. Your job is to stimulate that within them and let them make the decision, not you. And maybe you were wanting to fix their issue. That's not up to you, my friend. Reality here is yes, you do have good intention that you want to fix them, but maybe they don't want that for the time being. And sometimes it gets really personal. And that's where your ego, comes into place. Yeah? Now, how can we keep our ego low? Really? And when we talk about our ego, and I have a complete episode about that, self awareness is your key. And these are some of the stuff that I'm going to leave you with. Teach yourself. The first one is teach yourself. Let's say you're in a session or you're talking to someone. Try to basically notice the temptation to judge. It takes time. Really, it takes time. Once you notice, come back to the now. You're there. You're not judging internally. You're just there. That person is speaking. And sometimes what I like to do is come back to your breath. You're breathing and you're in that situation. You want to come back to that moment. You don't want to judge. It takes time. It really takes time. And something that I've done in the past is I used to have some beads, اللي هو المصباح. I used to have it in my hand just to push my energy there. It helps a lot to focus my attention and listen. The second thing is ask questions. Really, don't really jump into opinions. Resist it. Resist the temptation to give away your opinion, even if it is useful. Ask question. All right? And trust me, the other person would die for your opinion. So try to resist that temptation. Honestly, when I coach or when I speak to anyone, the first thing that they tell me is, we want to hear what you think, Saeed. Yeah, okay, I'll tell you what I think. But again, reality is it's not about me, it's about you at the end of the day. So what I do is I tell them, okay, you know what? Why don't you share with me what you think, and then I'll tell you toward the end. That's basically the way I look at it. And that takes us to the third one, which is always when they tell you that, resist it and tell them, listen, no problem, I'll share it with you. But again, reality is this is all about you, it's not about me. Right? So that's the third one. The fourth one to lower your ego is explore more. Because the more you explore, the more you are going to give opinions and your ego comes into the surface. Think this way. These are some of the questions that will help clarify. You should be like, tell me more about this. And then do some what if scenarios with them. What if you do that? What will happen? It really helps, by the way. And then once you basically do that, one question which I find powerful is, what would happen when you do this? This really stimulate their thinking. And then they may reach the same conclusion as you, which is good at the end of the day. And the last one is, and I spoke about that in the past, mindfulness practice is really amazing. Start with 5 minutes. Really, it really teaches you discipline and control your ego. All right? And always remember, this is not about you. It's about that other person. Okay? Let's say now you are in a company. You're basically not talking to someone else. What happened is, and I see that, and I really love to see that when it comes to leaders out there, is you see them stimulating opinions from others. You see them more of a facilitation job, very much connecting with the members in that room. All right? Naturally people would look at you for decision making, but what your job should be is you should stimulate opinions from others, not from you. The more you do that, the more people will be very much open to talk, and that will be very much great for you, and it will really lower your ego as much as possible. All right? What do you think? As I mentioned, I spoke about ego in a complete full episode before. Check it out and let me know what you think. All right? So, this is today's episode about your questions. And until next time, I really appreciate you being with me. And I'm very grateful for this moment. And I'd like you to take care of yourself and those who you care about. And if you find this episode very beneficial, please like and share. You can also subscribe to my channels. You can find me on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify for now. مع السلامة.